The mystery of the Golem. We're going to begin with the scripture reference from Revelation chapter 13. Of course, we have it on the screen here for you. And he doeth great wonders, so that he maketh fire come down from heaven on the earth in the sight of men, and deceiveth them that dwell on the earth by the means of those miracles which he had power to do in the sight of the beast, saying to them that dwell on the earth that they should make an image to the beast, which had the wound by a sword and did live, and he had power to give life. He had power to give life unto the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak and cause that as many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed. And he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads, and that no man might buy or sell save he that had the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name. And here is wisdom. Let him that hath understanding count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and his number is 666. Byron L. Sherwin, in his book entitled The Golem Legend, made this remark: few post-biblical Jewish legends, if any, have evoked the interest or have provoked the imagination of Jews and of non-Jews as much as the legend of the Golem. In his retelling of the Golem legend, novelist Eli Wiesel characterized the Golem as the most fascinating creature in Jewish lore and fantasy. No other Jewish legend has been as influential in inspiring literary works, artistic expression, and scientific speculation as has the Golem legend. One example of that, of course, is Mary Shelley's work on Frankenstein. It's highly known that many believe that Mary Shelley, who wrote the original story of Frankenstein, this being that had no soul, but yet was supernaturally, almost through scientific and superhuman means, given life. Many believe that Mary Shelley received her inspiration from the very legend of the Golem. Now, Norbert Weiner, the father of cybernetics, explores the relationship between humans and machines in his work entitled God and Golem, Inc. Isn't that an interesting title? Norbert Weiner identifies the relationship between people and machines as being one of the central problems presently facing us. And he describes the machine, now get this, as the modern counterpart of the Golem. Interesting that Time magazine compared the first test tube baby and compared it to the creation of the Golem. And this is what I find so very interesting. In dedicating a computer at the Weizmann Institute in Israel, Gershom Scholem named it Golem number 1. Now get that, the computer, as it was dedicated, the very first one, he called it Golem number 1, observing that the computer is a modern form of the Golem. Now what is a Golem, you ask? It's very simple. The Golem, defined in the Hebrew, simply means a shapeless mass. It's found in our Bibles. One place is in Psalm 139, verse 16. In the Talmud, unconscious Adam is viewed as and called and considered, just as a body without a soul is referred to as a golem. And there's many Talmudic writings that refer to Adam as such. But in Jewish tradition, to create life, and this is important, is to approximate the power of the Almighty. You understand, and by the time we're through today, I trust you more accurately understand that the reason why this personage in the period of time known as the Great Tribulation will be able to declare himself as God is because he will perform which will appear to be the greatest miracle that man has ever been able to do, and that is to give life just as the Almighty. Now, the origin of these things go back. Let me explain that the making of a golem could be initiated only by a tzaddik, a pious, righteous man. The tzaddik must be thoroughly learned. Aha, there's that little word, Kabbalah. You're going to see this interwoven throughout your entire research. If you on your own do study of the golem or study of these things, you're going to run into this a lot, and I know we discussed it earlier today. But what is the Kabbalah? Just real quickly, without getting into intense research, the Kabbalah is basically a mystical body of knowledge aimed at understanding the hidden nature of God. We pointed that out earlier today as well in the convocation. And then being able to put this understanding into practical use. And of course, the basic teachings of the Kabbalah are contained in the Zohar. Now, Kabbalists utilize the mystical and magical teachings found in the Sefer Yezairah, which is the book of creation. Now, the Sefer Yezairah is a 6th century volume of less than 2,000 words that contains, among other formulas, the one for creating the golem. And again, quoting from Gershom Scholem's book on the Kabbalah itself, he said, the study of the Sefer Yezairah was considered successful when the mystic or the Kabbalist, the individual attaining to these powers, attained the vision of the what? The golem. Now that's not me saying that. That's this man right here saying that, which was connected with the specific ritual of remarkably ecstatic character. He went on to say this: such black magic embraced a wide realm of demonology and various forms of sorcery that were designed to disrupt the natural order of things and to create illicit connections between things that were meant to be kept separate. In other words, we in the natural realm, we know there's a spiritual realm, and they, through not the power of the Holy Spirit, but through the power of Kabbalistic methods, are able to make a connection. Now, what did that serve? Activity of this sort was considered a rebellion of man against God and a hubristic attempt to set himself up in God's place. And according to the Zohar, and I give the reference there, the source of such practices was the leaves of the tree of knowledge. We talked about that earlier, if you remember, if you were here. And they had existed among men since the expulsion from the Garden of Eden. In other words, what I'm trying to say, and give you several quotes to verify it is that these Kabbalists who study the Kabbalah and the writings of the Zohar, they are going to be able to eventually, hopefully, from their standpoint, tap into the very ability that God has. And the height of that ability, according to this man, is when they got a vision of the golem. Now, according to the Sefer Yezairah, the giving of life was achieved by reciting combinations of the letters of the Hebrew alphabet, because these 22 letters are derived from the Tetragrammaton, which is the ineffable 4-letter name of God, Yod He Vav He. Because God used the letters of His name to form the 22 letters of the Hebrew alphabet, consequently, it possesses holy power. Well, we know that it does, don't we? Of course it does. But power in the hands of a man led of the Spirit can do godly things. But power in the hands of an occultist, someone who's trying to take the place of God, can be powerfully dangerous. Can we all agree on that? David Wisniewski went on to say, since God used these letters in uttering the words that created the universe, now get it, humans can now wield the same forces by prayerfully mastering combinations of the letters. And this, of course, is what the Kabbalists intend to do. I quote here the Zephyria Zaira, which states, 22 letter elements. He outlined them, hewed them out, weighted them, combined them, and exchanged them, i.e., he transformed them in accordance with certain laws. And through them, he, meaning God, created the whole of all creation. And everything else that would ever be created, it comes about that all creation and all language issue from one name. What name? The name of God. Yad, He, Vav, He in the Hebrew, and of course is also referred to as the Tetragrammaton. Now, Jewish mystics mastering the art of letter permutation, and again I'm quoting, I didn't write some of this stuff, I'm quoting men. These are not believers, these are men. You understand, you can study and research it out yourself. Byron Sherwin says, Jewish mystics mastering the art of letter permutation and combination granted one the ability to create life itself. How? By a process of combining and permutating the letters of God's ineffable name, creation can take place. Since the letters of the alphabet were the building blocks of creation, again, the Hebrew alphabet, knowing how to manipulate, key word. Didn't we hear something about that earlier today? That you can take these things and learn them, but we dare not try to manipulate them. Knowing how to manipulate those letters gives one access to the same forces that brought the world into being. Again, I quote, according to these legends, this master of practical Kabbalah created a golem with a magical name on its forehead. In some variants, the name is the Tetragrammaton. In others, it's the name Emet, very important, which means truth, which according to the Talmud is the seal of God. Now, don't lose that point. Give it to you again. The golem is given life by putting a name on its forehead that stems from the Tetragrammaton, or it can be the word emet, and we're going to show you examples of this before we're through in this presentation. But I'm pointing it out here is that according to the Talmud, this word emet, which means truth, is the very seal of God. The rabbi deactivates the golem. That's how he gives it life. But now he deactivates him by reaching up to erase the letter aleph, right here, from the word emet. That is inscribed on its forehead. By erasing the aleph in the word for truth, emet, then the word met remains, and met means dead or death. And thus the golem dies. Are you all with me? He gives it life by putting emet, meaning truth, on his forehead. But then when he wants him to die or cease to be, he erases the very first letter, aleph, which spells met, and then the golem dies. Again, quoting from Byron L. Sherwin, the literature of the German Hasidim tells us not only that golems were created, are you ready for this? But also how golems were created. And I'm telling you how. For the German Hasidim, a magical ritual served as an entry to mystical communion with the divine. Get that? You know the whole New Age movement? You know the whole Spiritist movement that exists in the earth today is man's carnal, dark, apostate attempt to connect with a divine being or a divine source or a divine power. By penetrating the mystery of creation, by becoming himself a creator, one comes to experience the mystical rapture of oneness with the Creator. The creative experience thus becomes a conduit to mystical ecstasy. And I submit to you that's the direction that many desire to go. Now, Joshua Trachtenberg, in his work entitled Jewish Magic and Superstition, documents several creations of the golem through history. And I know this may come as a surprise to you, but if you research it, you will find this out. Back in the 13th century, again, the German Hasidim literally created golems and brought them to life. It's told that in the mid-16th century, this man here, Elijah of Kelm, did the same. In Germany, man Eliezer of Worms. This one here, Zalman Zevi, in 1615, of the Offenhausen, stated, and I quote, "We German Jews," again, being from Germany, he said, when asked about the golem, he said, "We German Jews have lost this mystical tradition, but in Palestine," now keep in mind, this is 1615, this is before the birth of Israel as we know it. So the area and the region, as you may know, was known as Palestine. But in the area of Israel, he says, Palestine, there are still to be found some men who can perform great wonders through the Kabbalah. And again, he is directly answering the issue of the creation of the golem. Again, quoting from Byron L. Sherwin, one such medieval warning tells that the biblical character Enosh. Now, Enosh is found in your Bible. You can find him, I believe, in Genesis chapter 4. Enosh learned that God had created Adam from the earth. So Enosh, this individual, then took some earth. He kneaded it into a human form and blew into its nostrils to animate it as God had given Adam life. But lo and behold, look what happened. Satan then slipped into the figure and gave it the appearance of life. Now Enosh and his generation worshiped the figure, and hence idolatry was born. The figure was worshiped instead of God. The product of human hubris and demonic ruse replaced God as an object of human adoration. Do you understand what's being said? Is it possible that the very climax, that the very end of all that's known as idolatry will end the same way it began? If this is true, and this personage actually did this, and as it stated, Satan slipped into the figure to give the appearance of life, and idolatry was born, I submit to you that that could be exactly how it will end. Now, the premier figure credited with the creation of a golem was the chief rabbi of Prague during the 16th century, this infamous man right here, Rabbi Judah Loew ben Bezalel. During the time of Jewish persecution, Rabbi Loew is said to have created a golem to protect the Jewish people. As I've shown to you previously, there's many golems throughout history, but this individual right here is the primary figure, the primary personage, and premier person regarding the study of the golem. Rabbi Loew is revered and esteemed to this day as a leading Kabbalist who had incredible spiritual occult powers and manifestations attributed to him. This is the representation of Rabbi Loew. This was done, obviously, many years after this man lived in the city of Prague, but in a major building, city hall, if you will, are comparable to the city hall in the city of Prague. I took this picture, and that is really the best rendering that we have to this day of this infamous rabbi who was the leading rabbi for the entire Jewish people who resided and controlled the domain of the Jewish people in the city of Prague, Czechoslovakia, in the 16th century. This is his grave. I stood there and took that picture. This is a historical graveyard, by the way. I've never seen any graveyard in anywhere throughout the world like this one. And many tourists come and see this very historic Jewish graveyard in the city of Prague. In this book right here, which I was able to secure in Prague, we find, just to show you, again, the high-level occult activity that this rabbi flowed in and functioned in. This book gives us this quote. On one occasion, Rudolph II was the king at that time, invited Rabbi Lowe to visit him at his castle in order that through his magic art, he might evoke and humanize the great figures of Jewish primal fathers. You know, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob and his sons. Now get this. The king calls this rabbi, this Kabbalist, this high, powerful occult individual, and says, hey, can you bring these guys, sort of like the Witch of Endor. The Witch of Endor, can you call him up? Can you call that prophet back up? Can I sit and talk with Samuel for a while? Rabbi Lowe promised to meet this request. Now that's some high-level occult power. Now, was it Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob? Well, of course not, But he promised to meet the request on condition that no one would laugh when the figures of the patriarchs appeared. The figures of the venerable prophets gradually appeared before all those present, including the Emperor Rudolph II. Everyone gazed in wonderment at the dignified forefathers of the Jewish nation until Jacob's son Naphtali appeared among them. Get the picture? He's calling these men back supposedly from the dead, and they're appearing in the room. But contrary to the others, he was small. Naphtali is red hair and freckled, and the king could not refrain from laughing when his eyes set upon him. And at that moment, however, remember he told him, don't laugh. At that moment, however, the ceiling of the room began to drop lower and lower. Not one of those present was capable of moving, and everyone sat as though frozen, I guess so. And at the request of the emperor, Rabbi Lowe stopped the ceiling from dropping further through the strength of his will. However, it never returned to its original height, and the lowered ceiling still exists in one of the interiors. This Rabbi Lowe was an interesting fellow. This is a book. We'll pull it down a little bit. We've got to make some slight adjustments. Bear with us. This is a book that I also acquired and brought back with me from Prague. You can just make out, this book is sold everywhere in the city of Prague and throughout Czechoslovakia. Here's the rabbi here. It's very faint. I realize it's difficult to see. Again, this drawing goes way, way back, and they put it on the cover. This is the golem here. Can you make out the rabbi? I know it's small. It's hard. But this is his figure right here. Here's his face. So forth, his frame, he has his hand lifted, and this is the very being, the golem itself, and lo and behold, you see the Hebrew letters that sort of look like funny, squiggly little things, some kind of funny little mark on his forehead there, which are the letters truth or emet. That book I brought back with me from Prague. I brought several things back with me I want to show you quickly. These are postcards that are literally sold everywhere in the city of Prague. You'll notice, of course, it's in a Jewish, context. This legend and story, now notice, I think they purposely drew him or painted him or caricatured him in sort of a Frankensteinish type image. Do you see that? But these postcards are sold everywhere in the city of Prague. If you're ever there, you'll spot them. Here's another one. Incidentally, you will notice on this particular rendering of the golem, do you see the little dot? Now, instead of the letters, okay, you see like a little hole or a little dot. You see that? The reason for that is, without getting in great detail, the story has several variations. Different writers wrote it a little differently. And as the story has progressed, I am told from people that I talked to in researching this in the city of Prague, One such legend that's been recently acclaimed is that instead of writing the word emet on the forehead, I find this very interesting, they actually put supposedly a magical ball, a little magic marble in the forehead. And the reason that's so interesting to me is if that was the way that they initiated the life of this golem, listen, occultics and the world of spiritism will tell you that's known as the third eye. This little, looks like an eye in their forehead. Interesting, isn't it? It was to me anyway. This is a little clay golem. In fact, I brought it back with me. If anybody cares to see it, I'm holding it in my hand right here. You can see it. It's very small little clay ceramic golem. And it's designed so that you can put a candle on the inside and light it up. Now here's the thing that's staggering. You can buy these on the streets of Prague. I mean, they got street vendors. This is a real. I mean, there was hundreds of different styles. I mean, I could have brought back a dozen different ones, different sizes and everything. And they literally take these and put candles or lights in them and light them in their home. Sort of like a little Buddha or something. You see it there? You can see it better on the screen there with the light inside. And again, you can see this one, again, shows the third eye right there in its forehead. One more picture of him. This book, entitled Golem, written by David Wisniewski, and I have it right here in my hand. I want to play show and tell with you today because when I saw this book, it absolutely staggered me to realize the awesomeness. It just captured me. This book was written for children. It's a children's book, and it actually, can you see that gold seal right there? You see that gold seal that's on it? Right after it was released by the publishers, Clarion Books, it won a prestigious Caldecott Medal. And you can go into any Walden bookstore in America and find this book in the children's department. You can walk into pretty much any Barnes & Nobles, any bookstore. This book is now being released and placed in public libraries, school libraries for children so that they can come and read this book. And what I'm about to show you now is the very inside of this book. It won the award, by the way, because of the tremendous artwork that was done. And the artwork is fabulous, so fabulous to me, it's almost a prophetic glimpse of Revelation 13. So let's take a brief journey, and I want to show you, again, show and tell this presentation of this book in particular. And that's going to be difficult for me to read all the way from here. That's a picture, obviously, of Prague. Within the beautiful city of Prague, fierce hatreds have raged for 1,000 years. People of differing beliefs in God and nation have clashed violently here. Czech against German, Protestant against Catholic, Christian against Jew. The story goes, in the year of 1580, the Jews of Prague were bearing the ignorant fury of others. Enemies had accused them of mixing the blood of Christian children with the flour and water of matzah and the unleavened Passover bread. And this blood lie incited angry mobs to great cruelty against the Jews. That's how the story begins. This is a rendering. This is Rabbi Lowe, the gentleman I referred to earlier. Notice the Hebrew letters, and this is representative of the hand of God. For Judah Lowe ben Bezalel, chief rabbi of Prague, knew that this violence lay ahead, and he was deeply troubled. And so he entered into his study to fast and pray for the deliverance of his people. And he fell into a restless slumber and dreamed of fire and ruin. And when all seemed lost, a hand of light appeared and wrote one glowing word upon the smoke and ashes, the word Golem. Can you make it out right there? So this is the word Golem, and it goes on to talk about Rabbi Lowe's ability with the Kabbalah. And I know that's difficult to read. We proceed. Rabbi Lowe goes out with his helpers, and you can see him at the riverbank in the clay forming this being. Do you see him? Coming together here. This one is very important. I know this is kind of hard to make out. This is the actual golem down here. This is Rabbi Lowe up here. He has his hands uplifted. And let me just read a line or two of this. Raising his arms, Rabbi Lowe chanted Zeraphim, mighty spells from Kabbalah. The word soared aloft and unleashed the power of life itself. As lightning strikes iron and flashes to earth, so the infinite energy of creation blazed through the rabbi into the coarse clay. Staggering, the rabbi lifted his arms higher and uttered the holy name. Again, the tetragrammaton. And this picture is awesome to me. For you see here this image. And here sort of looks like a holy man, this rabbi with his hands on him. Look at that. And there you see, of course, the Hebrew letters on his forehead. It reads that the rabbi knelt and engraved the word emet, or truth, upon the creature's forehead, and instantly the giant's chest expanded like bellows. A deep breath shuddered from his lips. Golem, commanded the rabbi, awake. The story progresses. He takes him to his attic and he gives him instruction. Says Rabbi Lowe led Golem to the attic above his study. You have been created for one reason, said the rabbi, to protect the Jews. Do you understand? Yes, said the Golem. And there he is instructing him. The scene moves. Of course, this is the city of Prague, and you can see that the outburst has begun, the riots in the streets. And as the story is that they claimed this blood lie against the Jews, and they wanted to defend themselves. Quickly move through. Again, here you can see. Here's Rabbi Lowe, and it's a giant golem by this time. And you see those bad people outside. You know, all those Christians out there. Those are the bad people out there, see? Because they're wanting to, get in and hurt them. And this golem's got to protect them from those bad Christians out there. And this, to me, is the most staggering image and picture in this book. In the rage of the attackers, the flames, look at the golem. Look at the face. In fact, I believe we have a close-up of it I want you to see. Could we be looking at a preamble, an artistic message to the little minds of millions of children? This guy here is the hero, understand. This image you're looking at, this is the good guy. Supposedly in the story. All these bad people out here. This is the good guy. And look at this interesting mark he has on his forehead there. Could that be an artist's rendering, if you will, of the very scene that's soon upon us? Story progresses, and of course, Rabbi Lowe decides to let Golem die, and so he leads him out into the cemetery, and it says that the rabbi lashed out with his staff and erased the first letter Aleph from the word on the golem's forehead, and at this emet, truth became met, which is dead, and we see the golem dying, and here he is, ceasing to be. As I explained to you, that's how it worked. Interesting, this is the very last caption in this book. He took the golem back to the attic of the synagogue there in Prague and covered him with prayer shawls and books and so forth. And what is so staggering to me is this paragraph right here at the conclusion of this book. And I know it's hard to read. Let me read it to you. Since then, Golem has slept the dreamless sleep of clay, but many say he could awaken. Perhaps when the desperate need for justice is united with holy purpose, Golem will come to life once more. So get the picture. There's millions of little 5 and 6 and 7 and 8-year-old kids. We're going to read this book, read this story, all about the golem. And in their mind, hey, that golem is still in the attic somewhere sleeping. In fact, listen, I talked to numerous people in the city of Prague. They just walked up, didn't tell them I was a preacher, didn't tell them I was American, didn't tell them nothing. Just walked up to them in the streets just like any good reporter would do and said, you know, I'm new around here. Do you know anything about this something called the golem? To a man. I mean, in the streets. The people of that city could begin to recite to me the legend of the golem. And many of them, I would ask them, do you believe it's true? Oh, we don't know. We're not sure. But many of them said, I said, where is he today? If he was here, where is he today? And many of them said, oh, he's sleeping in the attic of a synagogue. And when God's people need him again, he could come back on the scene. At the very end of this book, David Wisniewski produced the book I just showed you parts of, makes a staggering statement. You'd think he was a prophecy preacher. You'd think he had, interest in telling people about prophecy. He says the tale, meaning this tale, the story that he was just told, the story that I just shared with you, the story of the golem, says this tale may even prove prophetic. You understand? I'm not saying it's prophetic. He's saying it's prophetic. It may even prove prophetic as the fields of computer science, robotics, and gene manipulation advance. Technological golems may arise in our culture. Interesting note, piece of information I found out as I researched this in Prague. There was a movie that was produced in Czechoslovakia several years back. It's a comedic spoof in which at the end of time, this is the storyline of this movie, at the end of the time a leader arose to the power in Europe and created a golem. Interesting, the leader just happened to be a descendant of the von Habsburgs. Sometimes movies are closer to the truth and reality than many of us may like to think. Could it be? Now, devout rabbis to this day in Israel believe that when the Messiah comes, one of his proofs of authenticity will be that he can correctly pronounce the name of God, the Tetragrammaton. Did you know that? Many devout rabbis in Israel today, what will be one of the proofs of the Messiah, you ask them? Oh, the Messiah will know how to correctly pronounce the Tetragrammaton. The Hebrew for truth, which is emet, aleph, mem, tav. You'll notice, of course, Hebrew is right to left instead of left to right. You knew that, didn't you? So this is the aleph here, the mem, and then the tav. Namely, the letter tav, I believe, could have a direct connection to the coming mark of the beast. If, listen to me, if Revelation 13 is depicting what I have tried to present to you, not from my words, but from words of others, I read you the verses. As soon as this image comes on the scene, then the mark of the beast is instituted. Not before, but then. If that golem is that image, if one claiming to be the Messiah performs in a similar way as this story depicts and the quotes depict that I've shared with you, could it be that the very Hebrew letters that will be placed on the forehead of this image, could it be that they may correspond to some degree with the issuing of this mark of the beast? Because if we keep it in context, all the verses are there together. Immediately when this image comes to life, then he causes all to take the mark. This letter Tav is important. Remember I referred earlier to the seal of God? The seal of the Holy One, blessed be He, is what? Emet, or truth. God's seal in creation, quoting Rabbi Yitzhak Ginsburg of Aleph Beit, God's seal in creation is truth. The final letters of the last three words in the account of creation in Genesis 2:3, God created and made. The last letter or seal of the word truth itself, the seal of God, is the letter Tav. Now get that. According to this individual, boldly says that the seal of God is the letter for Tav. Now go back in your mind several chapters previous to Revelation 13. And we see the incident where God protects some of His chosen ones. The rapture's already occurred. Hopefully you and I are gone. But there's 144,000 precious Jewish people. The Bible tells us, Revelation says this, that they're sealed on their foreheads with what? The seal of God. The ancient Tav. Now what's the seal of God? Letter Tav. Maybe short for the word emit. Why is that important? Here's why. The ancient Tav looks like this right here. Resembles the Greek chi, or an X. Again, the ancient Tav resembles the Greek chi, or X. 144,000 are sealed, perhaps with this mark, perhaps with the entire word for truth on their foreheads. And to all common men, they look superhuman. Can't kill them, can't hurt them, can't do anything to them, because some divine God is protecting them. Why? Because they got, perhaps, this mark on their foreheads. Y'all asleep on me, or are you getting this? Let's go back to Revelation 13:18. The scripture says his number is 600, 66. The mark of the beast is not 666. Say, what, Joe? I always thought it was 666. Yeah, it is. It totals 666, but that's not what the Greek says. That's not what the New Testament says. The New Testament says the mark of the beast is 600, 66. Now, we know that totals 666, but that's not what it says in the Greek. The Greek letters, just like the Hebrew letters, have corresponding numerical values. If you read this in Greek from the original text, what's translated in our King James Bible for 600 is the letter chi. 70 in our King James Bible was originally, it's translated 70, is chi or xi. And then 6 is stigma. Stigma is the numerical value of 6. Xi, the numerical value of 60. And chi, the numerical value of 600. So thus, chi, xi, stigma is what John originally penned. And there are the three Greek, I know they look like funny little lines to us, funny little markings to us, but those are the original Greek letters for chi, xi, and stigma. And look at this one, this X. Question. If, and I by no means am dogmatically today saying that it is, but if the image of Revelation 13:14, which is given life by the second beast, who we know and call the false prophet, if that image is a golem, then the very mark, Tav, and again, the ancient Tav is an X. This is the recent current Tav. The ancient Tav is an X. If the image of Revelation 13 is a golem, then the very mark Tav on his forehead could correspond with the chi, the X, in the Greek wording of 666 in Revelation 13. Are you with me? Could it be that this personage will try to copy what transpired earlier in the tribulation? Just as God sealed 144,000 and they became superhuman almost. Now this false Messiah, highly tapped into the world of the occult, highly tapped into the Kabbalistic forces that are real and exist. This very one who will be the false prophet, could he, in similar fashion, create this image based entirely on legend and story and truth that exists about a golem, and put the very same letters emet on the forehead, copying what God did with 144,000? Basically saying, you can be superhuman too. I close with this. Revelation 13:16, and our King James Bible says, and he causeth all to receive the mark. Now, if you read it in the Greek, it is better rendered it, not he, but it, referring to the image. This image, this golem, if you will, that the second beast, the false prophet, causes to give life, it, the image, will then cause all to receive a mark. We may have this wrong, folks. We may need to rethink this. If there's truth to this, then I submit to you, is it possible? I just asked the question. Is it possible that this golem image will come to life and with the entire world viewing, compel people everywhere to receive this powerful, life-giving mark on their foreheads and hands to align themselves with earth's new Messiah and receive this same power, this same energy, and this same life? In my mind, it's very possible. Again, could this picture in this children's book, just as the author is telling us, this could be prophetic. Think about the little kid that reads it. He reads the story. Those bad people are coming after us, and this holy man raises up this important person who's going to be a hero to us. He's going to protect us. And the author himself said this story is prophetic, that there may be new scientific golems emerging in the future. Could this be setting millions of people up, conditioning them to the possibility when such an event occurs? And that man will form this image and put this funny little mark on his forehead. And that image will come alive. And when that image comes alive, he'll make the whole world take such a mark. I submit to you. You judge it.